On this Sunday night, new revelations in the deadly New Orleans attack. What the FBI has uncovered about the suspect's travels and motives.
He flew to Ontario, Canada on July 10th.
As mourners gather to remember the 14 killed in the New Year's Day truck attack. A monster storm gripping much of the U.S. snarls travel.
Continues to snow heavily, and so this will be an operation that we expect to continue for several days.
With millions of Americans in its path, see where it's hitting the hardest. The urgent plea from parents of an Israeli hostage to bring their daughter home. Blending coffee and conservation.
Absolutely amazing.
I think people are amazed at his beauty, his size.
The unexpected star of a new Nova Scotia cafe helping educate visitors about wildlife.
Global National, reporting tonight, Nitu Garcha.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We are learning more tonight about the mass attack in New Orleans that claimed 14 lives. The FBI has released new details revealing the now deceased suspect had traveled to Canada from Egypt more than a year before the attack. The purpose of the trip remains unknown as investigators piece together the assailant's movements leading up to the tragedy. Heidi Petracek has our top story tonight.
We are leaving no stone unturned.
With that vow, FBI investigators outlined what more they've learned about the man responsible for the New Year's Day terror attack in New Orleans. More than 1,000 officers following tips and poring over evidence left behind by the assailant, 42-year-old U.S. Army veteran Shamsuddin Jabbar.
Jabbar is estimated to have entered Louisiana on December 31st, 2024.
The FBI used CCTV footage to track Jabbar up to the moment he drove a truck into a crowd, killing revelers ringing in 2025 in the French Quarter. He was shot and killed by police shortly after. Investigators say before he even got to Bourbon Street, Jabbar set fire to his nearby rental home, where officials later found explosive devices as they did at his home in Texas.
Which we believe will turn out to be commonly found explosives right here in the United States.
The FBI says Jabbar had pledged allegiance to Islamic State and believe he acted alone. They're now looking for more information about his movements long before the deadly rampage in 2023, when they say Jabbar went to Egypt, staying from June 22nd until July 3rd. They say he then flew to Ontario July 10th, returning to the U.S. 3 days later.
Our agents are getting answers as to where he went, who he met with, and how those trips may or may not tie into his actions.
Jabbar also made 2 trips to New Orleans in the 2 months before the killings.
Jabbar, using meta glasses, recorded a video as he rode through the French Quarter on a bicycle.
Glasses he also wore during the attack. But why he chose New Orleans is still unknown. As the FBI probe continues, so does the grief. Residents and visitors gathered at a vigil Saturday to remember the 14 people killed. 30 people were injured.
We got to deal with all this violence from all around the world. Why here?
2 months of Mardi Gras celebrations kick off Monday, the same day President Joe Biden is expected to travel to New Orleans. The Super Bowl is next month. Heidi Petracek, Global News, Halifax.
The New Orleans Saints and the NFL will donate $1 million to the victims of the Bourbon Street attack. The donation comprises of a $500,000 pledge by the Saints, as well as a matching contribution by the NFL Foundation. The money will be allocated to directly support the victims of the attack and their families. More than 70 million Americans are in the eye of a monster winter storm tonight. 30 U.S. states from the Midwest to the East Coast are under weather alerts. And already states of emergencies have been declared in Kansas, Arkansas, Kentucky, Virginia, and Missouri. Some areas have already seen more than 2 feet of snow. The storm has snarled travel and triggered avalanches. The winter blast is being fueled by a polar vortex that has pushed Arctic air down through Canada. It's expected to bring the heaviest snowfall and coldest temperatures in over a decade. Scott Roberts reports.
In multiple cities across multiple states, driving conditions are treacherous. In some areas, highways turn to skating rinks, even minor inclines, too much to navigate for these vehicles.
We've been pre-treating our roads
for 2 days.
In Kansas, watch as this semi-truck hits black ice and jackknifes. Moments later, another big rig spinning out. And then this, an SUV sliding across the roadway through the median and nearly into another car. Scenes like this, commonplace across the United States, with a monster storm stretching from the Midwest all the way to the eastern seaboard, leaving 70 million Americans under weather alerts. More than a foot of snow coming to some cities.
As the weather gets colder, we definitely see an increase in numbers.
In Columbus, Ohio, shelters preparing for an influx of people with temperatures well below zero. A handful of states, Missouri, Kansas, Arkansas, Kentucky, Virginia, already declaring states of emergency, with power outages mounting due to ice buildup on transmission lines.
Continues to snow heavily, and so this will be an operation that we expect to continue for several days.
In upstate New York, blizzard-like conditions possible in a part of the country already hammered by lake-effect snow in recent weeks. And in Louisville, planes landing in near whiteout conditions, with flight delays and cancellations expected to impact airports.
I don't know if I'll be doing much sleep tonight.
Meanwhile, road crews are preparing for a long few days with the worst of the winter weather in highly populated cities on the East Coast. Still to come. Scott Roberts, Global News, Edmonton.
A winter storm in Newfoundland and Labrador has left thousands of people without power. High winds toppled trees and caused outages across the province. 9,000 people were without power this afternoon. Massive waves are pounding the coastline, and there is localized flooding in some areas. Environment Canada has issued weather warnings into tomorrow morning. Heavy snow and a deep freeze sparked widespread travel delays and disruptions across the United Kingdom and Germany today. Several major airports were forced to close runways and suspend flights. There are fears rural communities in England's north could be cut off with up to 40 centimeters of snow on the ground. Snow and ice has also caused havoc in Germany, where authorities are warning of treacherous travel conditions. In Tel Aviv, thousands of Israeli citizens protested against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. They are furious over his government's handling of the conflict in Gaza. They're demanding an end to the war and a ceasefire deal to bring home the hostages still held by Hamas. The rally comes as Hamas published a new video of an Israeli hostage held since the October 7th attacks. 19-year-old Liri Albeg was taken during an attack on Israel's southern communities. As Jamie Dahl reports, her parents are demanding a deal to bring her home.
A picture of his daughter is draped across his chest. It's impossible to hide the heartache that's been churning underneath it for the past 456 days now, as this couple's daughter sits in captivity. You're strong and you're capable. We're here fighting for you. I love you so much and miss you terribly. I'm waiting to hug you, cries the mother of Liri Albeg, an Israeli soldier taken from her army post by Hamas. Today, we received a sign of life from Liri, a video that was difficult for us to watch. This isn't the Liri we know, said her father, adding they spoke with the president and prime minister and told them to make a deal. Global News has not been able to independently verify the video or when it was shot. There is a push to get the hostages released and a ceasefire in place before President-elect Donald Trump takes office on January 20th. Mediators on both sides are in Doha this weekend trying to find a resolution. It's unclear how close they are to securing a truce. In Gaza, the bombs keep dropping and the carnage and mass casualties keep climbing. 102 dead this weekend alone in 3 separate Israeli attacks. This family using their own hands to try and pry the bodies of loved ones from the remnants of their decimated home. 3 young men, the son's wife and 3 children are still under the rubble, said this man. Residents said this neighborhood had been quiet since the start of the war, but it seems even the smallest enclaves of peace are becoming impossible to find here as the conflict pushes into its 15th month. So many are aching for it to stop. Jamie Dahl, Global News, Calgary.
Ukraine has launched a surprise new offensive in Russia's western Kursk region. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russian forces lost up to a battalion of infantry this week. Ukraine launched a significant cross-border raid nearly 6 months ago into the Kursk region. Russia has since amassed more than 50,000 troops in the region, including soldiers from its ally, North Korea. A Russian-backed enclave in Moldova is suffering through long periods without electricity because of rolling power cuts. Flows of Russian gas via Ukraine to Central and Eastern Europe stopped New Year's Day after a transit deal expired between the warring countries. Residents are being urged to burn firewood for heating. A dolphin rescue center in Russia says more than 30 of the mammals have died since an oil spill in the Black Sea. Workers and volunteers are clearing tons of contaminated sand in occupied Crimea. Russia has declared a regional state of emergency. Fuel spilled out of 2 storm-stricken tankers nearly 3 weeks ago in the Kerch Strait, close to eastern Crimea. State media reports the ships were carrying more than 9,000 metric tons of oil products. It has been more than a year since Quebec banned flavored vaping products, a move met with uproar for those who use them. The measure has changed some people's habits for the better, but without them, others have turned to cigarettes. Matilda Cherone looks at the ban and how effective it's been.
Vaping is not good for you, and Canadian authorities do not recognize it as a quitting aid for cigarettes. It's especially popular among teenagers. According to Quebec's Public Health Institute, in 2021, 17% of people aged 15 to 19 had vaped in the last 30 days.
Banning flavors in e-cigarettes is essential to reduce youth vaping.
And that's what the Quebec government did in October of 2023. The results are mixed. A study by the Quebec Coalition of Vapors' Rights found that 36% of vapers picked up cigarettes after the ban. But the Canadian Cancer Society rejects the finding.
There is no credible evidence that these bans on flavors in e-cigarettes have led to an increase in smoking. The most recent data for Quebec that we have available shows a continuing decline. We have to recognize that it's commercial interests that are advancing this point of view.
The ban hasn't stopped people from finding what they need.
We organize some visit in mainly vapor shops, and most of them are still selling vapor flavor, and especially to teenagers also. And there's a lot of illegal sales of the flavors on internet.
Flavor enhancers are also being sold perfectly legally to get around the rules. Quebec's coalition of tobacco shop owners wants the government to start cracking down on these illegal practices. They suggest creating a program similar to the already existing Accès Tabac, which targets cigarette contraband.
We suspect that all the illegal sale of the flavor, the people behind it is probably some people that are already smuggling tobacco products.
Additionally, advocates are rushing the federal government, which has been working on a Canada-wide ban since 2021.
And it'd be really beneficial to have a final national regulation to ban flavors in e-cigarettes from coast to coast. This would very much help with enforcement in Quebec.
Matilda Cherone, Global News, Montreal.
A congestion toll to tackle traffic trouble. Coming up, New York City's plan, its potential impact, and whether Toronto could follow suit. The annual New Year's auction of Bluefin tuna is underway in Tokyo. One fish about the size of a motorcycle and weighing just over 600 pounds sold for $1.9 million Canadian. An upscale sushi restaurant was the buyer, and it's the second highest bid ever. In 2019, a single tuna sold for $3.1 million Canadian. From Tokyo to New York, one thing all big cities have in common is the struggle to move people around efficiently. But even with all the subway lines under New York, traffic on the surface has remained a nightmare. The city tried to change that today, initiating congestion tolls for vehicles entering parts of Manhattan. Lexi Benedict explains the new fees and whether the idea could catch on in Canada's biggest city.
The cost of congestion. As of today, drivers heading into Manhattan's busiest neighborhoods will be paying a fee of up to $9. The hope is to alleviate traffic while boosting the city's transit system. Something experts believe Toronto should implement.
Toronto has the third worst congestion in the world by some measures. It's harming our economy. It's strangling our quality of life. We can do so much better.
From NHL players walking to their games to singer Niall Horan walking to his own concert.
Driving here is a nightmare.
According to data by INRIX, a transportation and location analytics company, in 2023, on average, Torontonians spent 63 hours sitting still in traffic, a 3% increase from 2019.
It's not something that we are considering right now because it's not within our ability to do so, unfortunately.
Toronto's mayor says it's up to the province.
Former Mayor Tory requested the ability to toll roads, and I think the government of the time said no.
And today we checked in with drivers and commuters in the city and asked them how they would feel if this was implemented in Toronto.
I personally don't see how that could be so fair for residents of Toronto because there are already economical challenges that living in the city imposes because it's a very expensive city.
We need less fees, less taxes, not more.
But experts say while you may not be paying for it right now, traffic does come with a cost.
But you're paying for it every day in your time and in your mental and physical health from sitting in traffic.
The city says their current solution to gridlock is investing in transit.
So that we could have more streetcars, more frequent subway services so that there's an alternative.
But experts say it's worth considering.
When the idea is first announced, there's a lot of public pushback and people don't like new charges and fees. But what you find is that as it gets implemented, people do get used to it and they make different choices.
Lexi Benedict, Global News, Toronto.
Jaspers' crucial comeback ahead as wildfire recovery continues. Local business owners are racing against time with the summer season ahead. It has been a bittersweet holiday season for the people of Jasper. 5 months after a wildfire tore through the mountain town, the cleanup is still underway. It'll take years to fully recover, but business owners don't have that kind of time. Heather Urex West reports.
The charred remains of Jasper raft tours are finally being trucked away. The burned out wreckage had been sitting in this lot since late July, when the owners first learned all had been lost.
That was an emotional day.
It was pretty devastating.
That was an emotional day.
The couple evacuated with their children and pets to stay with family in Nova Scotia. And while their home survived, their livelihood was suddenly gone. Fire destroyed the restaurant Jessica Worth owns with her husband too.
For myself, I don't even know if it's really even hit me. Like, I almost feel numb to everything that's around me.
Months later, Worth is still struggling with her insurance provider. The family down a major source of income heading into a critical year. For so many in this community, 2025 will be a major test.
Well, I mean,
critical.
Jasper is tourism, right? That's what most of us here rely on. So yeah, we need the people to come back.
The region is open to tourists again. Marmot Basin, the local ski hill, is operating this winter, but it's what happens in the summer that counts most. It's why many are working hard to get ready now.
I think we're making great progress. People are busy making rebuilding plans, although we haven't yet started to see any of that rebuild, but it is all coming.
Housing is still a big concern. There is a plan to build temporary housing for essential workers, but construction has yet to begin. Many families are living in arrangements that will only get them through the winter months. Still, residents say the spirit of resilience in this town remains strong. Jasper Raft Tours is now accepting summer bookings, confident they'll be ready and hopeful the tourists will come. Heather Yurex, West Global News, Calgary.
A new cafe just outside Halifax is giving visitors the chance to meet a wild resident up close. You've probably heard of cat cafes by now, where you can have a cup of coffee and share some feline company at the same time. But just east of Halifax, there is a new twist on the trend. Angela Capobianco reports.
The inspiration for Cafe Catio came in many ways, says Hope Swinimer with Hope for Wildlife. Her goal, to provide treats to patrons year-round and showcase the benefits of having an enclosed structure for domestic pets. But the biggest thing was to give Jesse the bobcat the enrichment he needs after not being able to be rewilded after 3 years of trying.
I think Jesse's very happy in the conditions that he lives under. They're far different from the wild world, but he seems to look forward to the interaction with humans.
She adds she hopes people leave visiting Jesse and the site with a renewed appreciation of the natural world.
Really, I hope people connect with nature again and appreciate the beautiful nature we have around us each and every day.
For visitors to Hope for Wildlife, being able to see Jesse up close is certainly the main attraction.
We came out because we saw on an ad about the Jesse, the cat, so we came out to see this for sure. Amazing, absolutely amazing. And the children were coming up to the screen, and the cat went crazy for the children. Kevin jumped up on the screen. It was pretty impressive.
The bobcat. It was just too beautiful to not come out to see. So, and then we heard that there was a new cafe. So it was like, wow, they've made lots of changes since we were here, and thought it would be a great idea to come out and support them.
As an education animal, Jesse will be able to help teach visitors more about bobcats in Nova Scotia.
I see people light up when they see Jesse for the first time. He's just such a beautiful animal. I think people are amazed at his beauty, his size, his movements, and his behavior. So it really is lovely to have him here, a part of our world.
Angela Capobianco, Global News, C4.
And that is Global National for this Sunday night. I'm Neetu Garcha. Tonight's Your Canada is the backcountry near Saskatoon. Donna Friesen will be back at the anchor desk tomorrow. Have a great night.